Welcome to the Klingon Opera House. We are two conveniently bipedal humanoids. My name is Ryan.
And I'm M. My pronouns are they, them.
This is a Star Trek recap podcast. Today we're covering Season 1, Episode 4, Code of Honor, the racist one.
Yeah.
This shit sucks, man. Season 1 is so fucking bad.
It's like laughably bad, and there's like some fun parts in this episode, but fuck, it's rough. Yeah, I feel like from Encounter at Farpoint to Naked Now to Code of Honor, we went out of the pot into the fire and then into the fires of Mount Doom. But yeah, anyway.
Background.
In case people who are listening skipped last episode, I want to state the disclaimer that I just got over COVID and that's why I sound like this. So my deepest apologies for the hefty amounts of vocal fry going on today.
All right.
Okay, so I have some notes on how this episode came about.
Right.
So originally the aliens were supposed to be reptilian with a Japanese derivative culture. And this pitch with the reptilians was made by Dorothy Catherine Fontana, who also had a heavy hand in the writing of Naked Now.
Maybe not the best fucking writer in the world.
Yeah. Also interesting. Like, there's also a lot of, gross gender shit going on in this episode.
So for context for everyone, presumably you're listening to this after you've watched the episode. This episode centers around essentially a culture which is bound by a crazy code of honor, and hence the name, and is very like chauvinist and misogynist, and like essentially portrayed as barbaric. And all of the aliens are played by exclusively black people. Like, there's no aliens in this episode that aren't just like a black person.
Yeah. And it's not like they have any prosthetics or anything.
No,
they're just black.
It's not even like how they used to do Klingons with just like blackface. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, prosthetics cost money, and like you can't always like fully deck out an alien, but like really
just do the fucking Bajoran like nose thing or something.
Yeah, like there's gotta be like I'm sure that like Kira has her own specially made nose thing because she has so much screen time.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there's just like a one size fits all Bajoran nose ridge that like any extra can wear.
Yeah. Which I will purchase.
That'd be fun. Oh, that's definitely something you can get on Etsy.
Yeah.
But I went as 7 of 9 for Halloween once, and I got like the Borg implants that as like latex prosthetics that like I used whatever kind of like stage glue to put on.
It fucking rocks.
Yeah. I also had the silver like bodysuit.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was made so cheaply, and like the neck was really tight. And like throughout the night I couldn't really sit down without it cutting off my blood.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I like periodically just had to like stand at the like I was like with people sitting, and I would just have to stand up and stand for a while. It was so awkward.
That fucking sucks. Yeah, so for that context, right?
Yeah.
The episode as is this very racist portrayal of I suppose it's based off of like an Eastern culture, right? You said it was pitched with the idea of like they're reptilian, but they're also like Japanese, which still racist, by the way.
Yeah, not great. But director Tim Russ suggested a black cast with a pseudo-African aesthetic. And so it's like they kept the like Japanese samurai code of honor culture thing, but black cast and African aesthetic. And I was like, that's an interesting interpretation of African aesthetic, because that can mean like a million different things.
Yeah, no, Africa is an entire continent. That's like being like, oh, we're going for a European aesthetic. Or if you were like, oh, we're going for an Asian aesthetic. Like, what? No, I find it interesting too, because if it's like, oh, we're doing like we're basing it off of like samurai and Ronin and shit like that. I think it's interesting, one, because like the whole like, oh, there's this strict code of honor that we subscribe to, much less because like, yes, there's the Bushido code, but the Bushido code is very much like, it basically boils down to, if you're a samurai, you listen to your fucking boss, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's much more similar to like a chivalric code in Europe. Like the French Rose of chivalry or something like that.
Yeah, so this counting coup thing that they, like, the plot device of stealing Yar.
Yeah.
Like, Data calls it counting coup.
Yeah.
And, like, that's an actual thing. That actually, I have those notes within the recap. But, yeah, I mean, it's a mishmash of shit, and, like, all Star Trek shit is that. But, yeah.
Right.
But so, partway through filming this episode, this director, Russ Mayberry, who suggested the black cast, was fired and never hired for further work on Trek. It's unclear as to whether this happened for whatever reason or if it's like specifically because he was being a dick to the guest actors, which also shocker.
Yeah.
Oh
my god, the guy who was like, well, what if we do a racist premise? Was a dick? No way.
Yeah. This guy, Keith R.A. DiCandido, who wrote a lot of Star Trek books, actually, he said that apparently casting of entirely African-American actors as the aggressively primitive Lingonians did not sit well with Roddenberry, but apparently not that badly because it made it to air.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Again, I think the limits of Roddenberry's politics kind of show themselves where it's like, well, I don't want to make a stink about it or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's also like a deadline, you know, for like when you can cram in all your production, but also you have like fucking 20 odd episodes. Or actually, I'm not sure that the first season is so long.
You can do another fucking episode,
or just don't, because it's already super long.
Yeah.
Like, are they really gonna notice / miss a week? I mean, maybe they would, and like we just don't know because I mean, like, I grew up with
I'm
cable,
pretty sure
but
it's contractual. Like, you get signed on for a certain number of episodes. It's just
Yeah.
like, you can just be like, all right, we have to workshop Code of Honor, so we're going to work on this other one, and then we're going to not do the racist thing or something like that.
Yeah. Also, apparently the Jungle Gym arena that's at the end,
Oh, the fucking Cubert arena?
yeah, resembled one that was like a Kirk versus Spock fight in the second season premiere for the original series. And so again, they're just like pulling shit from the original series and like it's old hat.
It is interesting though, because like that's a phenomena that we observe now where like everything is like a fucking recycled thing. It's just like, you know, the fucking new Star Wars movies, quite literally, like the seventh movie is just the fourth movie, right? It's just A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I think people are like, oh, it's just a sign of the times, but like this has been going on forever. Where we just keep repeating shit because we want to, you know, nerds want to like open mouth smile and point at the screen when something comes on.
Yeah. I mean, look, we do that. And it is fun when we can do that. But some, like, when it's just done too often or too...
It's too fucking blatant.
Yeah, there's no purpose for it.
Yeah.
It's
just you being lazy.
And I mean, like, it is kind of an interesting like, arena, like, concept. I don't know. I think if this were a good episode, people might have thought, oh, they recycled that arena and it's a callback and that's fun.
Yeah.
But because the episode sucks, people were already just like, boo!
Ooh, fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah, so also this episode is like, we were just talking about, like, last episode, how the first season of Next Gen, everyone's like, this is the worst episode of Star Trek. But this one specifically is just so roundly and wholly hated.
Yeah.
Which, you know, for good reason.
Sucks.
Frakes called this episode a racist piece of shit on a panel in 2011.
Well, that's my boy.
Michael Dorn said he was glad he wasn't in this episode.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone from the cast hates it. Like, can you imagine how embarrassed you'd be if you worked on this?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, if I was the guy who came up with that idea and then subsequently got fired from Trek, like, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look good on your resume, but...
I mean, if I was a cast member, I'd be like, I was paid contractually to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, the nature of Star Trek was fairly, collaborative in some ways. So, like, it's not like there was no room ever to say, this sucks.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, so, I don't know. But, I couldn't find much on the thoughts of cast members of color about this episode. Most of what I could find was from Spiner, Crosby, who's Yar, and Frakes.
Yeah. To be fair, the only cast members of color in this episode are this guest stars.
Yeah, there's also LaForge. I also
Oh, Jordy is in this episode.
Yeah. I looked up the actor who plays the like king dude.
Luton.
Yeah. And I could like he was in a lot of other shit, but like I couldn't find anything on the internet where he was like, yeah, this was a weird fucking show. But I don't know. I couldn't find anything.
Maybe he just hasn't commented on it because he didn't want to fucking think about it.
It's possible. Also, look, I mean, he was a black actor in the 80s. There were probably a lot of roles that he did that fucking sucked.
Yeah. No, because Hollywood was and is ass.
Yeah. So I don't know I'm sure that for someone like this actor who plays a lot of supporting roles, it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
And I'm also sure at some point, if you shit talk stuff enough and you're a supporting actor and not like Jonathan Frakes, like no one hires you, you know?
Yeah.
Several actors and showrunners have commented that the script wasn't racist since it was originally written for reptilians and didn't have anything specifically referring to blackness.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I don't think you have to use the N-word in a script for it to be racist.
Okay, hypothetically, let's say this is reptilians, and then the culture suddenly comes off as being much more like East Asian, right?
Mm.
How fucking racist is it to be like, yeah, Asian people with their lizards? Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
It kind of rings like all Jews are like reptilian people.
Bells? Yeah. No saving this one, champ.
I mean, also here's the other thing. If you were to cast like a diverse like guest cast for the aliens, like your biggest problem would be the pseudo Asian culture and just the misogyny. You know,
it's the presentation of them as like being like the noble savage, if that makes sense, where it's like, oh, these are incredibly backwards and they're misogynist and they're fucking horrible, but they abide by this code of honor, right? And it's this a much more flagrant version of like the Klingons, right?
Yeah,
that's still like one, huge amounts of cultural appropriation. Two, this is like a caricature of people who are colonized by white people, right? Like they do they take aspects from Native American culture, right? Where what does Data call it?
Yeah. Counting coup,
right? So counting coup, fucking there's the strict code of honor. Is clearly like the design of the palace is very Orientalist. It's like very much designed after like what a white person would be like. What does the Taj Mahal look like on the inside?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, all the actors are black, right? It's literally just like a mishmash of caricatures of colonized people.
Yeah, and like they don't borrow from any white cultures, and like I think that's a choice to make it feel more exotic and savage.
Yeah, which I don't get, because I think the most
savage bitches in history have been white colonizers.
Well, okay, think about Vikings for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Half of the shit that we put on to other cultures probably just comes from like, memories of Vikings. Like they did all that shit, raping, pillaging, looting, plundering, all of that shit, right? They were like barbarians and shit like that.
Yeah, there are incredibly violent sections of history and culture fucking everywhere in the world, but like white people, especially like the way that Star Trek is written, like, oh, our culture was bad, but like we're good now. It's like very like
it's very much like white Enlightenment liberal Europe.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did I have here? Oh, but so I was just thinking like when people are like, oh, it's not a racist script. It's like, okay, maybe the script itself isn't
saying the N-word.
Yeah, but like the episode smells like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck. It's a duck, you know, like it doesn't pass the sniff test. And like maybe the script isn't, but like the directors and producers and like the choices that they made to make this episode just make it a racist episode.
Also, it's an insanely misogynist episode.
Yeah. And I mean, like we've talked before about like pre-podcast in the BP era before podcast about the difference between portraying a mode of culture that's toxic and harmful in a didactic way, as if to be like, this is bad, like kind of I mean, I think that The Handmaid's Tale, the show, crosses the line sometimes, but like kind of like that. But then there's TV where like they think they're doing that, but they're just making racist, misogynist TV.
Yeah. Well, I think the best example of this, the one that rides the line, I think the most for most people, although I would argue it absolutely does not, Starship Troopers, which is, it's a parody of fascist culture.
Mm.
The whole thing is like, these basically brain dead citizens who have been bred from the day they were born to think that there is an outside enemy that they have to kill are all going and killing this like outside enemy. And the whole point is you're supposed to be horrified by it, right?
Mhm.
Now, dumbass fascists would be like, oh, this is a movie about how cool fascism is, but it is absolutely not. But like, I think the best example is like, this feels like Pocahontas, the Disney movie.
Yes. I have to admit, Pocahontas was one of my favorite movies as a kid, which as an adult, I am not proud of.
Well, you were a fucking kid.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I don't know.
Every Disney movie was made by an anti-Semite one way or another. Like,
yeah. I really liked it a little too far into adulthood, though.
Yeah. Well, how old were you?
I don't know. I think I was probably like 23 when I really started to get my head screwed on straight about a lot of shit.
That's also like, this is a different topic altogether, but we all have nostalgia blindness.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody wants to accept.
This is a Star Trek podcast.
Yeah.
Like the nostalgia blindness, prescient topic.
Yeah, especially in this context. Although nobody
Yeah.
has nostalgia for this episode.
No.
But
no.
I mean, we're going to talk about the Ferengi pretty soon.
Yeah.
But everyone has that with like their fucking movie from when they were a kid. Like my favorite movie growing up was Captain America. And I now realize watching back that entire movie is United States military propaganda.
Captain America? When did that come out?
2008.
That was your... Oh my God, I cannot believe that was a movie for you growing up.
Yeah. 2008, I was 6.
I am just constantly like...
Old?
Having... I'm just constantly having moments of just like, fuck, I'm old and this is new for you. Or like
that is a childhood experience for me.
Yeah, like I guess not new for you, but yeah, it's just like, you know, you experienced a different part of your life. And yeah, no, that's nuts. Anyway. No, but I think that in terms of the discussion about this episode being racist, I think that something that like kind of generally everybody could do better is realizing that you might not have meant it to be racist or hurtful in some way.
It still can be.
Yeah. And the fact that you didn't have that intention does not absolve you of that. What absolves you is learning.
I don't believe in the idea of like, this is different and I might cut this out. But I don't believe in the idea of taking that kind of action as a means of absolving yourself.
Or not absolving, but like you don't have like a debt of like shit to take care of, you know?
I don't believe in that idea.
No?
Right?
Okay. I'm curious. Okay, go on. Sorry.
I'll
shut up.
You don't have to. It's a podcast where we talk to each other.
We're both very bad at talking over each other.
Yeah. I'm not the best at that. Sorry. But what I was going to say is it should not be focused on the idea that like I as a person have to be a better person. It should be more about, well, I was wrong, right? And now there's this moral issue of race, gender, class, etc., etc. And I am going to do this not because I myself want to be a better person, because that is sort of the maxim of the like liberal individualism. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that like we have to be better people every day and it's an individual project. The idea should be I'm doing this because people are suffering.
Yes.
Not because I personally feel bad about something I did.
Yeah. It's not about your personal report card. It's about not putting more shit out there.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good point. I like that.
I've been thinking about it a lot because I had a friend who, when we were kids, was pretty homophobic. And as he grew up, he was like, he got way better about it. And he was like, yeah, I totally made up for all of that. And I was like, is that why you did that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, then you didn't actually get any better.
Yeah.
To be fair, he's not saying slurs anymore. So maybe he did.
Yeah, I don't think you should cut that out. I think you should keep that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, but just like generally like about the intent of whether or not it was meant to be racist.
It can still be racist.
Yeah. To quote Jordy in this episode, you know it when you see it.
You do.
It also sucks that Worf isn't in this episode because it would have been so interesting to have a Klingon perspective on honor in this whole like shenanigans like hullabaloo.
Yeah. Well, the idea that like you had this in the notes, I think, this idea that like the Klingons operate out of an individual like honor, whereas Luton and the Ligons,
So Ligons or Ligons? I thought it was Ligons.
they say Ligon.
Such a fucking stupid
Ligon
name.
these nuts. Fucking got him.
Wow. Wow. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm a comedian. Excuse me.
Slick.
Thank you. Yeah, the Klingons operate off of like an individual honor, and the Ligonians or whatever, they operate off of like a systemic honor. It's not about actually being a good person or anything like that. It's about holding social status.
Yeah. You know what? I think that kind of a conversation, especially in DS9, about the corruption within the Klingon Empire's like bureaucracy is about, a lot of that discussion is about personal honor versus communal status. Because like Worf gets fucked over because it becomes more about communal status, not actually what's right.
Well, yeah, it's because he's the son of Moog and not because he's actually a good person.
Yeah, like the Klingon High Council like breaks their own fucking rules all the time in DS9, and I think it's because they're focused on status rather than like what's the right thing to do as an honorable person. Yeah, so just a little bit more background. So this thing where the Ligonians, the women own property, they own all the property and wealth, but the men govern.
Yeah.
That's actually I had read that was a reference to actual pre-colonial African societies.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that in like one article, and I couldn't really find it anywhere else, or like it was specifically this region at this time or whatever. I couldn't find any specific information. Granted, I was just doing kind of like a, everydayman like Google search.
Yeah.
Hey, if there's anyone listening that's done African studies or whatever, or just like know when you've been to a museum and
that is unfortunately a huge blind spot in my history thing. I gotta do pre-colonial Africa.
I mean, it's a huge blind spot in the public school system of history curriculum.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's a huge section of culture that we just don't learn around.
Yeah, like it's important to do your personal responsibility of learning your way around those blind spots that aren't covered in your public education, but also you can't personal responsibility your way out of systemically not perpetrated information.
To be fair though, I am a history major. No, there's two introduction courses at the college I go to. History of the West and then history of the rest of the world.
Oh my God.
And the West is just Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't even include like
Africa,
it doesn't include America and Canada?
Well, it stops at 1500.
Okay.
I know nothing about an entire continent's history, but I can fucking tell you about the Roman emperors.
I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to say, like, yes, that's a blind spot, but that burden is not fully on your shoulders as a moral individual.
Well, part of me is just like, it sucks because it would be cool to learn about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, Crash Course, World History, that YouTube channel.
Yeah, I bet they have some good shit on that.
I actually would just I listened through that a couple times while working a few years ago. And I think they have a couple episodes on African history, or maybe it's like in their literature crash course, they have a couple sections on African literature. And like the little that they touch on, I'm just like, fuck, this is really interesting and sad because a lot of it is about colonialism.
Yeah.
But like, man, that's a huge gaping hole in like our collective American understanding of history.
It's also such a fucking broad sweep, right?
Oh yeah, it's a continent. It's a lot.
If someone was like, "Oh yeah, we're learning European literature," that is like, think about the amount of European novels that you could like list off.
Yeah,
like that includes so much shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for Africa, we're just like, it's Africa, and it's like, fuck you. Like,
yeah, it's a big blanket whatever.
All right, back to
Star Trek. So yeah, I did try to Google this, I really couldn't find much, but I could glean that generally women played a much more prominent role in society than known by the European colonizers' attitudes.
Yeah.
Also, in many pre-colonial African societies, there were same-sex relationships and marriages, and people who openly occupied identities outside the European concept of the gender binary. And there were also cultures that embraced forms of polyamory, and all this freaked the colonizers out. So there were, like, also with these different forms of marriage and partnerships, like, I'm sure that meant that there were a lot of different modes of the divvying up of powers and resources between the genders, and in some cases of these cultures, multiple genders, you know?
Well, it's interesting. I think because like European culture has historically been so patriarchal, the notion that hierarchy can be organized on something other than the idea of being
I have a dick.
Yeah.
And therefore I can tell you what to do.
Is asinine to them, right? Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I'm not going to be like, ooh, girl boss it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Because the power shouldn't lie with one group of people. Well, that's the whole thing.
Hot take power, that power shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Fucking hierarchy is for dweebs.
Another bingo card item is just me sighing deeply.
Yeah. Sighing deeply whenever I say something absolutely asinine.
Or just, you know, big sad because history.
Yeah. That is a big thing for me. Studying a lot of history, I only study ancient history because it's like fun, right? It's like this happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And then the second I'm like past like the year 1000 or whatever, it's like, oh no.
There's emotional implications.
Not only is there emotional implications, it's just like, oh, I know how awful this is.
Yeah,
like,
you know where it went.
Yeah.
You know how this show ends. Someone spoiled it for you.
Yeah, like when I was reading about Roman history and they were like, the Pope shows up. I'm like, oh shit.
Time to duck out.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Yeah. So that's all I have for background. It's pretty general this time. So yeah, we could get into the episode. I forgot to write down, writer's credits and shit like that for this time. So we could just skip over that.
Some dumb asshole wrote this script.
A lot of dumb assholes wrote this script.
It will be collectively referred to as some dumb asshole.
Yeah. Some dumb assholes, SDA. The SDAs.
The SDAs.
Should we make an official sounding acronym?
SDAs. Some dumb assholes.
Yeah.
So the Enterprise, they open up, Picard's like, there's this fucking virus.
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. No. There's this virus. I think is it on Bryza or on Vulcan or something like that?
I didn't write it down because it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't. They're like,
it's never prescient to the plot.
I don't know. I want to know the little references.
When I was writing the notes, I
should have written it down. This is the problem.
When I was writing the notes, it's not a name that we ever hear of again.
That's true.
But by the way, the mic is going to be picking up your paper.
Enjoy that. Yeah, the Enterprise arrives at the planet Ligon 2. These nuts to receive a vaccine that they only have.
It sounds like legumes or like a kind of bean.
And you can't say Ligon. Ligon these nuts. Like what? Like that's literally like being like, oh, do you know Ligma?
Ligma?
Ligma balls.
Oh, I walked into them all. Oh my god.
You actually fell for that.
I've never heard of that.
People are going to listen to this and be like, oh my god.
Wow, Emily is a dumbass.
No, they're gonna be like, that was fucking staged.
Emily is one of the SDAs.
Yes. You ever heard about the CD?
I'm not gonna repeat. No, I'm not walking into this one. Okay, what's the punchline here?
CD's nuts. You like Imagine Dragons? Imagine dragging these nuts across your face. I'm a fucking.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So they go to Ligon.
Mm-hmm.
Picard, Troy, and Riker. They're going to Cargo Bay 1 with Yar.
Mm-hmm.
With a Ligonian designation will be
delegation.
I can't read. We'll be beaming up.
We get some turbo lift exposition time. Riker remarks that the Ligonian history is similar to human history, and Troy tells the others that the Ligonian society is super proud and highly structured. It's also interesting, like, they talk about the Ligonians being similar to historical aspects of human culture. And then in the next episode with the Ferengi, like, they wrap up the episode because I did homework ahead of time.
Yeah, because you're a fucking dweeb.
Because I was sick and I was bored. I couldn't do anything else, and playing video games hurt because I was achy. Feel bad for me.
Did your fingies hurt?
No, my
little baby's fingies hurt.
I'm gonna fucking slap you.
Do it.
You know how I have like that chronic pain.
You do actually have joint pain.
When I have a fever and aches, like you get aches from a fever, but like my joints that have issues typically hurt so bad, and so like it manifests in my wrists and my elbows, and so playing video games really hurt. I tried. I did homework ahead of time.
Joking, by the way.
I obviously don't know how to take a fucking joke.
I don't know.
No, I got it. No, so anyway, I was just saying that in the next episode we meet the Ferengi, and at the end Riker's talking about like how, oh, we could destroy the Ferengi, but our prime directive prevents us from doing that. And also, I
could commit genocide, but I'm not going to.
Well, they're like, yeah, the Ferengi fucking suck ass, which like they do. And they're like, yeah, we could obliterate them because they suck.
This is Rom erasure. Rom does not suck ass.
Man,
Nog, dope as fuck.
The world building of the Ferengi is really like all over the place. But
it's
anyway,
so ass in Next Gen, and it's so good in DS9.
Yeah. But so Riker is also like, and they're also just like we were back in the day, like, oh, they'll figure it out, or they won't, but like whatever. And in both of these cases with the Ligonians and the Ferengi, they're like, oh, they're like we were, and therefore
they are inferior.
Like they're inferior, but also we have to like pay lip service to like respecting them.
Yeah, it reminds me, because recently I've been listening to this podcast, Age of Napoleon, which is, it's about the Napoleonic era, but it like follows Napoleon's life on a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fucking good. The guy who does it does like a very good job of it. Napoleon invades Egypt at one point,
mm-hmm.
right? And that time, I forget what they're called, but they're basically like these like lords. It's part of the Ottoman Empire and stuff like that. So it's very Muslim, right? And Napoleon goes down, and he's like, the way he phrases it is like, he prefers Islam to Christianity, but he's still like being like a shithead atheist about it. So he's like, I respect Allah as a historical figure.
What the fuck?
Yeah, shit like that. Like the way that he talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much like you can tell he's like, this shit's backwards as hell, and I don't actually respect these people, but I need them to not revolt against my fucking army.
Yeah.
And it's that same sort of chauvinism.
Also when Starfleet here are talking about like, oh, they're like old human culture. What the fuck does that mean?
Old human culture?
Yeah, like that there's so many different versions of it in all these different geographical areas. It's not a unified history. But this is also the problem with just the entirety of the Federation. It's premised on a Western idea of the entirety of human history.
Well, yes. It's premised on this idea that like, human history can be summarized in like basically when the United States comes to exist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like really what they're referring to.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, there is like sort of this prevailing theory. It's this idea that like, oh, human nature exists, which it doesn't. Psychology exists, and that's the only provable human nature. But like, you can't be like, humans are inherently evil. Humans are always going to like kill each other ruthlessly. Genocide is always going to happen, something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like humans are meant to be monogamous.
Yeah, or hierarchy is supposed to exist, or something along those lines. It's in our biology, or something like that. Something the idea that a person's outcome as a person is more affected by their biology or some innate human nature rather than their material surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea that like, well, if you look at human history, we all do the exact same thing always, which is not true.
I mean, in that we're super fallible all the fucking time, sure. Humans are really good at doing one thing ubiquitously, and that's fucking up. You missing something?
I think I dropped my phone. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. Should we go back to the recap?
Yeah. Sorry. I was talking about that because like I don't know. It's always whenever Picard or Riker speaks, I'm always like, ooh, there's something that I can just like sink my fucking teeth into.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's because it's really Gene Roddenberry, like, dipping back into his, like, police PR speechwriter self.
Yeah, and being like, oh, look at me fucking, ooh, I'm highfalutin fucking.
Yeah, moralizing from a position of leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so they get to the cargo bay, and Luton, who's the leader of the Ligonians, he beams up with a guard, and he rolls out a red carpet for Luton.
Yeah, and like he rolls it out with this like really fun high kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun choice by that actor.
I get like big, like it feels like a genie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean I think that's the Orientalist aesthetic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like not only the way that he like dresses, but like just
Yeah.
like kind of the like, I am Luton, the powerful. Ooh, you know, fucking.
Well, he's very theatrical. Yeah, so Picard greets the aliens, and Lieutenant introduces a second in command, Hagon. Picard does...
Hagon D's nuts.
Like,
Picard does name plus 2 truths and a lie with his people. Yeah, so he introduces all of his people, and he's like, this is Commander Riker. He likes to play trombone on the weekends. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Just like I always enjoy in Star Trek, we have a scene where you have a Starfleet delegation meeting, like in a kind of a larger delegation, meeting a kind of larger alien delegation, and they go around and say everyone's names. Like, I don't know. It feels very like first day of class to me, and I enjoy it.
yeah, they're gonna play popcorn.
Yeah.
Luton immediately is like, yo, security lady?
Yeah, he's very thrown.
Because he presumes, again, this is, we said this earlier, but like their culture is very misogynist.
Well, it's only men in the ruling class.
Yeah.
So like there just would not be a woman in that position. Also, I think it's Lutan.
Lutan?
I think it's Lutan.
I thought it was Luton.
Fuck.
You say it that way, I'll say it this way. Who cares?
Tomato.
Yeah.
Lutan's robe is lit. Like
he is kind of drippy.
And he's a very good looking man.
He's hot.
Yeah. He's it sucks that his character is so mwahaha.
Yeah, like evil and also like a racist caricature. But he is a good looking man.
So the actor's name is Jesse Lawrence Ferguson. And
That's a good name.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Looking at his IMDb, he was known for Boys into Hood and the A-Team.
Shit.
I haven't seen either of those, but I like know the cultural reference. So
I mean, I'm sure he was on an episode of the A-Team.
Yeah. Did you watch that?
The A-Team?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I was gonna say, I think it's a little before your time.
Very much before my time. It's the 80s.
Wee bit.
Granted, we're doing a recap podcast about a show from the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, but you came to this as an adult. You weren't like growing up like, I'm gonna turn on Next Generation. Yeah, so Hagon, the Lutan's second in command, moves to give Picard a sample of the vaccine, and Yar like pounces in front of him to intercept the box. What's in the box? She's trying to like be the TSA.
She's basically like, yeah, no, she's like really trying hard this episode.
Yeah, and Hagon's like, woman, get out of my way.
Fuck you, woman.
And Yar like does like a do-si-do like move with him and just sends him flying. But also like fairly unprovoked. He wasn't like, he was just
there was no like real motion there. Yar just flipped his shit.
Yeah, he was like getting close when he was told not to. But other than that, he wasn't being aggressive or anything.
But you could just put your body in the way.
Yeah, which like I guess this is the writers telling us to expect violence from this culture, because like every line in a script is trying to tell you a little more about these people that you don't know in the situation. And
true.
Oh my god, the cats are on a rampage.
Yeah. They're zooming.
And like maybe this is the writer's way of trying to be like, they are like the Klingons. They've got this code of honor, and they are not afraid to use violence within this code of honor. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but it's also like,
it's also
Yar's the one who does the violence.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, they fucking, yeah, she flips his ass, and then Troy is like, don't apologize.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the Ligonians would see it as weakness. And yeah, just like
Don't back down, Yar.
feeding more into the noble savage shit.
I do think it's very funny though to be like, don't apologize. That's for bitches.
Also when Yar's inspecting the box, she has her back turned to the alien delegation.
Yeah, she could get stabbed.
Yeah, like also just run a fucking tricorder over that shit before you even open it. Like,
Yeah,
what
there
is
could be
happening?
a bomb in there.
Yeah, you know. Oh my god, it could be like a mercury switch.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's all very silly.
They're gonna get fucking Unabombered.
Just that thing would have gone off when she like flipped Hagon's shit.
Oh, something might have gone off if she did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Yeah. Picard asks, thanks, Luton, and he asks if you would do us the honor of allowing you to entertain. I just replicated a lovely charcuterie board.
Mm-hmm.
I love a fucking charcuterie board. Captain Picard's a man after my own heart.
What do you think Picard would put on a charcuterie board?
I mean, he's French, so lots of cheeses.
Yeah, lots of cheese.
I believe
lots of like meats and prosciutto.
Yeah, something like that.
Or is prosciutto Italian?
Prosciutto is Italian, but I can see Picard putting prosciutto on there.
I just remember, like when I was in France, I remember like this very thinly cut meat of some kind that was delicious.
Prosciutto.
Is that prosciutto? Okay,
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't eat enough meat to know.
I imagine like a nice, everything very like light and Mediterranean. He would go for.
Yeah.
Out of earshot of one of the Starfleet, I had in my notes this quote that's just like, Luton says Yar might be just what I need right before he kidnaps her.
Yeah. Like, you're made to believe that this guy has been having a latent plan that he just like enacts at an opportune moment.
Randomly finds.
Yeah. And like just decides to pull this shit with fucking Starfleet. Like,
why would you pick Starfleet?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Go screw with the Bajorans or something. They're being oppressed right now. Actually, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, you can't really do that if the Cardassians are busy killing them all.
I'm just trying to think of like some bumbling busybodies. Although, you know what? Because of the counting coup thing, it probably wouldn't fucking like make that much of a statement if he did this with a less powerful
organization
entity. Yeah.
Okay. So Act 1. So the theme plays. Do 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 do. Lick my balls and lick my taint. In the observation lounge, they're having their charcuterie board, and Picard presents Luton with a 13th century horse statuette from China's Song Dynasty as a gesture of friendship. And Data is like, "Hey, fuck you. That's the wrong century. Also, did you complete the homework?"
Yeah. So apparently Lutan is a horse girl. I also did look this up, China's Song Dynasty, because I was like, I know some Chinese history, but I couldn't really remember this, and I wanted to know what they were referring to.
Yeah.
So it spanned from the mid-10th to the late 13th century. It was the first to use paper currency. It was China's first standing navy, first recorded chemical formula for gunpowder or powder. They had like a rudimentary flamethrower, grenades, firearms, and landmines. And it was just like generally an era of advancements in the sciences and arts. And also apparently this is when the movable type printing press was first made.
Yeah.
Also this is like I got this from like a cursory Google. Like I'm sure some of that is a little bit squishy and maybe not fully correct.
Yeah.
So that's my disclaimer for someone who's listening and actually versed in Chinese history.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, but I mean also like knowing that, it's interesting that they're referring the Song Dynasty to the Ligonians, because all they really cover with the Ligonians is that they're like super honorable and shit. They don't mention economy or academics or technology or anything.
That would be fucking hard though. That would require the writers burn into their coke stash a little bit further than they did.
Yeah, I don't know, but like knowing that about the Song Dynasty, I want like that's just an interesting layer to maybe think about the Ligonians as. Like maybe they do have that aspect, and it would, you know, I would maybe hate this episode a little bit less if they touched on that just a little bit.
Maybe. maybe I think it's hard to do this because I think it's a failed premise, right?
Yeah.
You can only polish a turd so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gives them the fucking Song Dynasty thing, and Luton does this whole stump speech thing about reaching across the aisle and making the vaccine available to all regardless of insurance.
Yeah.
Luton shifts into a sudden accent and he goes, "The cost of the vaccine is too high on the planet of Risa. There are normal, working Federation citizens who are not receiving the health care that they need.
If there's anywhere that has universal healthcare, it's going to be Risa.
That is true." That's just like one of the only planets from Star Trek that I can remember.
Let's see. So Lutan asks to see the holodeck, and he specifically requests Yar as a tour guide because he heard that from Admiral McCoy that Data's tour is dry as hell.
Also, because he's horny for Yar.
Yeah. Yar looks at Picard like, "Oh my god, Dad, don't make me go play with this weird kid." Like the look that she gives him is just like,
don't do this to me.
Big wide eyes.
Yeah. So he wants to go see the holodeck, and Riker he's kind of like iffy about Luton's fixation on Yar specifically as a female officer.
Yeah, he's kind of acting like a big brother, like, "Hey, you bothering my little sister? Is there a problem here?
Is there a fucking problem here?" And yeah, Hagon is like, "On Ligon, women own all the land, but the men govern it." And Troy mentions that human history once functioned similarly. I think in certain cultures. Very weird to be like, that was an era in human history, though.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because, like, in Star Trek, everywhere that isn't Earth is treated as like a monoculture.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like on places fleshed out as Bajor, it's like everyone's a Bajoran. Nobody like you don't go to another part of Bajor and there's like, "Oh yeah, these guys have different accents than us," or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's like a level of world building that's just so much fucking work. And there are some planets where like there's different populations that are like, culturally
separate.
Yeah. But like usually that's like a kind of story where Starfleet comes in and plays as moderator.
Starfleet comes in and will like unify them, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a TV show. They don't have a lot of screen time. I'm sure that this is just what happens when you're trying to tell a story quickly, but it is weird.
Yeah. Well, it's also like there's only so much information that we can take in, right?
Yeah.
It's easier for us to think of a planet as a unit rather than being like, "Oh yeah, the continents on these different planets and shit like that."
Yeah. Also, interesting, just like with this Ligonian cultural aspect, interesting distinction between owning and ruling. Because usually in societal function, you don't see those things separated,
Yeah, the owning class has always been the ruling class.
Yeah. I mean, I think the closest you can maybe get is like the concept of a large dowry.
Yeah.
But even so, it doesn't belong to the woman usually in most like, cultural cases.
Well, the idea was maybe like, I don't know, like let's say like you're an heiress and, this money and a company or land or whatever belongs to you technically, then you get married and, and suddenly that belongs to the man, right? Or the man is actually in control of it and you govern. It's not something that was that common. Like it wasn't. I feel like Troy's comment here is very off.
Yeah, it's just not true. But yeah. Anyway, so we go to the holodeck. Would you like to take this one?
Yar opens an Aikido training program.
Mm-hmm. There's some really fucking intense chopsticks-esque piano here. It's just also just the whole soundtrack for this episode. I feel like it's just like salt on top of the racist like dish.
Yeah, the cherry on racist top.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's just kind of like par for the course of TV at the time, but I don't know about you, but like just the sound effects and background music for this episode felt especially original series to me.
Yeah. Can I go off on it for a sec?
Go for it.
I have to talk about Aikido.
Yeah.
For a fucking second.
What? So this isn't something that they made up?
Aikido is a real martial art.
Really? Okay.
But it's also not a real martial art.
Okay.
Steven Seagal
Oh my!
does Aikido.
I probably just like blew out the mic. Actually, I just listened to a 3-parter Dollop episode run about Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
But it was while I had COVID and I was sort of conscious, so I kind of remember most of it. But sorry, go ahead. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Aikido is judo's shitty little brother. It is a grappling martial art that does not work. You know how in the beginning, Yar just grabbed that guy's hand and he kind of let her flip him?
Yeah.
That would never work. None of it ever fucking works. Pick a cool martial art. Like even if you're like, oh, it's less traditional, but you do learn actual strikes. Like, I don't know, like Kung Fu or some shit like that. Hell yeah. Go for it. Or maybe you're like, we're going to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it's very effective or something like that. Go for it. Aikido fucking sucks. Aikido is not a real martial art. You will get your ass kicked if you learned Aikido. This is not the martial art of the future. Why aren't they doing Muay Thai?
You know, the thing in the dollop that I did pick up is that like Steven Seagal, when he had his like Aikido dojo or whatever the fuck, he would do demonstrations, but like it would basically be agreed with his sparring partner that they would just let him throw them. And like, so like that's how he pulled off the demonstrations. And also he did like a bunch of consultations for TVs and movies. Do you think, I don't know if this was the correct era.
Steven Seagal did this.
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe like those showrunners consulted with him before if we're on like a different project and just like carried that like false knowledge like to another project. Yeah, oh my god, that's hilarious.
I would even accept it if they were like, yeah, they know karate. And I'd be like, you know what? That's fair enough. It's not that great of a martial art, but you know what? You stand with one foot in front of the other and you're not like twisting someone's wrist or some shit. Boo. Fuck you, Aikido.
Let's see. So, yeah, Lutan is really thrown about the on-demand creation of a person sans soul. And Yar is explaining to him that this is a computer-controlled facsimile. Yar does a demonstration, and she, like, puts on the robe. And I'm like, yes, you have to put on the robe to do this demonstration properly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, martial arts have some aspect of ceremony to it. Like, okay, sure, fine. I could be convinced that that's, like, a normal part of doing this program. But she, like, you know, tosses the holodeck figure, and Hagon's like, I could do that. And then he gets his ass handed to him.
No, there's no way that, like, Hagon wouldn't know how to defend against that. Like, if you're like, if you're gonna be like, oh, this is a warrior culture, he would be fucking great at hand-to-hand combat. He would like tear that shit apart.
The only way that I could imagine that this would work is if Hagon's like, whatever, this is like, you know, a dummy robot thing that I'm fighting, and like it can't be that hard. Like it's like perhaps he didn't actually think that it had the strength to throw him, and that's why he got surprised and thrown.
Yeah,
I don't know. He thought it was weak tea and it just wasn't.
Yeah. Luton says he's impressed, and he says to Yar, I like you.
Your skill impresses me. I like you.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. And he delivers the line in a creepy way because, of course, that's the direction that he was probably given. And Yar looks like she's going to crap her pants. Is this the Yar that screamed at a queue last week?
Yeah. So they go back to the cargo bay. Luton fucking ganks Yar. He just grabs her and then beams out.
Yeah. When you were a kid, did anyone ever do like that kind of thing, like a fake out where they go to like pat you on the back or shake your hand or whatever the fuck and then just put you in a headlock and give you a noogie?
Yes,
like that's basically what he. Yeah. Oh yes, indeed. Yeah. So Picard sends the ship into red alert, and we go into the intro theme. Oh no, sorry, we go into the second act.
Yeah, the intro theme already happened, my boy.
Yeah.
Picard is blowing up Luton's line.
Yeah, and Luton's leaving him on red. I didn't write this in here, but Data's like explaining how Ligonian beaming technology is different, and that's why they can't trace Yar. And I think it's Picard that's just like, yeah, okay. And I'm just like, I'm someone who likes to talk about how things work and why, especially in sci-fi, like theoretical shit. I wanted to hear Data finish his thought.
That's a very interesting concept. Like, oh yeah, their technology develops entirely different than ours, but it does an incredibly similar thing. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I'm here to discover or whatever, but like not that. Dink.
So Picard orders Riker to throw some warning shots into the planet's atmosphere. They get nothing. They can't trace where she got beamed to. Troy says that she sensed avarice, which I didn't fucking know what that meant.
I thought it meant horny.
That's what I would have guessed too. Looked it up. It means extreme greed and ambition.
Ooh, they're pulling out the ACT words.
Yeah. She sensed avarice from Lutan, but just general curiosity and attraction from the rest of the Ligonians, because we need to remind you
They're
that
all horny for Yar.
Yeah. Also, this is so totally the trope of the white man being afraid of the black man taking away the white woman.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, can you get any more explicit?
And there's a very famous like panic that happened, but there's tons of art about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of Native Americans stealing and killing white women.
Yeah. We actually covered that a little bit in my American art history class. I remember that.
Yeah, and this whole thing is like fucking insane.
Yeah. I am also sure that there's like newspaper caricatures about that same white man fear, but about the black man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big yuck. Big yuck.
Huge yucks. Fuck this. Fuck this episode. Fucking Aikido. Fucking.
So Data chips in and he says that the Ligonians value patience, and so they should probably just wait by the phone, because, you know, Yar's probably fine. like sure, they kidnapped her, but they're honorable. She'll be okay.
Ugh.
Interesting choices all around.
We have to, okay. I know we talked about this pre-podcast, but like we have to like skip a couple of episodes of season 1 so that way I remember why I like the show when we hit season 2.
Yeah. We'll make a spreadsheet of the ones that we're gonna skip and shit. And like I was also saying this, you know, before we were recording, but like we can like think of like criteria for like why we definitely want to cover an episode or why we definitely would not want to. And it's like, it's not that I want to skip the episodes that I don't like, because sometimes those are the ones that like are important to Star Trek as a whole, like the brand of Star Trek, or like, you know, kind of like this. Like I think it's
this would be one that I think that we wouldn't skip because it's so, there's so much like you can get into it.
Yeah, like there's something to pull apart here, but then there's just episodes that are just bad.
Yeah,
it's
like Naked
like,
Now.
We would be recapping it and be like, that was stupid. That was also stupid.
This is stupid.
This is boring and doesn't make sense. Yeah. So we're gonna try to trim down our lineup. And I was talking to a friend of mine about the podcast and saying like, wow, I think we need to skip some. And he was like, no, you got to commit to the whole thing. And I was like, this is my fucking podcast. I know.
Who fucking said that to you?
Dylan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Dylan, if you're listening to this, sorry.
No, he's going to be listening to this. And Dylan, I appreciate your advice, but I will not be taking that particular aspect of it for my own mental health, because wow, this is
a fucking lot.
It's draining. It's a slog to get through.
Yeah, well, it's because not only do you have to watch it, you have to think about it.
Right.
I can't just like turn it on in the background and then show up to a podcast recording.
Yeah. So anyway. Next day, Crusher meets Picard in his ready room and reports that the vaccine can't be replicated, and that only the original materials will work against the virus because, you know, plot convenience. She also asks that Wes be let onto the bridge again. Picard's like,
Wasn't it was last episode where he hijacked the fucking ship?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not like getting like not on trial for high treason.
Or like just didn't get sent away to fucking boarding school. Like you cannot be on the ship anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Picard's like, yeah, I guess. So he goes out to the bridge and he calls Wes, and Wes just like sticks his head out from the turbo lift. Like he's literally hiding in the open turbo lift.
Yeah. And
Picard invites him to sit at ops. And the crew like raises their eyebrows, and Picard doubles down and he's like, this is just temporary. This is why I'm like, while Wes is obnoxious on his own, he is set up to fail by the adults around him. He should not be allowed on the bridge like this.
Yes.
Like,
no, he's getting set up by his mom. Like he's getting set up by his mom and by Picard.
Yeah.
No, because like, oh, we're in a high stress situation. One of our fucking people just got kidnapped. Bring the kid on.
Yeah, like, just set up, you know, like how there's field trips at school? Just
set up a fucking easy day for him to, like, watch an asteroid or something.
Yeah, or, like, set up bridge tours. Like for like each grade does it like one tour of a different part of the ship every month or something like that.
Yeah. Give him something in engineering that's like make him do like simple maintenance, like the
Yeah.
equivalent of like changing oil on an engine.
Yeah,
or
be
something.
like, oh, you want to work as a Starfleet, not officer, but like, as a member of Starfleet.
You want to do some
you
ensign
can
work?
Fucking swab the deck.
Yeah.
Now you'll really be,
This is what
all done.
Starfleet is, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's what most of Starfleet is. Yeah.
yeah.
But
You gotta do some bitch work. Be an ensign for a little while. So Data has completed his book report on the Ligonians. Emily's really fucking killing it with the jokes in this. He read Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica.
yeah.
I'm seeing on the Memory Alpha website the Ligonians.
Yeah. Data pays the extra subscription to Encyclopedia Britannica to get like the extra content.
Yes, he does. So does Captain Picard.
He also has a New York Times subscription.
Data doesn't.
You don't think so?
Data reads like Wired.
What's that economic newspaper?
The Economist.
The Economist. Yeah, he reads The Economist. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. He's like, Picard, they live by a strict code of honor. And then he describes the counting coup. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, Luton is doing the thing called the counting coup, which like ancient Native Americans did it to white people.
Yeah. So I have some information about like this actual cultural phenomenon.
Actual counting coup?
But also just before this, I forgot to actually include this in a bullet point. Data calls French obscure.
Yeah, get fucking owned, Picard.
Yeah, and Picard's all up in arms about it.
You're fucking speaking English.
Or is he? Is the universal translator always translating for him? Except that the universal translator dies sometimes and he's still speaking English.
Yeah.
This is a Packers fan and a Bears fan chatting at a backyard barbecue in Kenosha. And the Packers fan is all like, wow, the Bears suck. And the Bears fan is like, okay, but we won the Super Bowl in 86, okay? Like, yeah. That's what this reads as.
No, this reminds me, okay, this is very strange. My father is Dutch, right? Growing up, I was always like, I want to learn a second language. And my dad was like, you should learn Dutch. And I was always like, what the fuck would I use that for? And you get a little bit mad about it. It's the same thing.
You use it on your honeymoon because, well, that's one of the places that Maddie and I have talked about going on our honeymoon.
Ooh. Homosexuals in Amsterdam.
Yeah. So I can tell you about counting coup. This was an actual thing with the tribes of the Great Plains. I don't know, like often when Star Trek refers to ancient history that's not European.
They get it wrong?
Yeah. Or like especially Native American stuff because of, Chakotay and Voyager is so badly done.
Yeah, because the guy who did the
consulting was
not Native American. Yeah,
he was a con. But yeah, so I was actually kind of surprised that this checks out. Tribes of the Great Plains, including the Cheyenne, Crow, Sioux, and Blackfoot. There might be other cultural groups that did that, but that's what I found. It's like the epitome of I'm not touching you. Counting coup often meant charging the enemy and smacking him with a literal coup stick. I found some information about like what exactly the stick looked like, but it wasn't really a super reputable source, so I
gotcha.
Skip that. It was a special stick, and then maybe or maybe not killing them. And there was like a level of humiliation to the gesture, especially if you didn't kill them, because you're basically saying you're not worth killing. I'm not afraid of you.
That's a fucking neg. Damn.
Yeah. It earned a warrior a higher amount of honor than simply killing them. Also, because I don't know shit, I was like, okay, what the fuck does coup mean? Like, I know contextually what coup means, but I don't actually know what it means in French. And if, for listeners who are like me, who don't know shit, coup is French. It means a successful, unexpected act or maneuver. It also makes sense that it's called counting coup in modern,
whack someone unexpectedly.
Well, I think it makes sense to me that it lives in our vocabulary now as that, like, phrasing.
The act of, like, overthrowing something.
Well, because, in a lot of North America, actually I think specifically in the Great Plains, the first white people to come into contact with Native people were the French.
Yeah.
And so they would be the first, they'd be the ones to like coin terms to like explain these, Native people to their white counterparts.
Oh, I get whacked with this sick. Oh.
I enjoyed that a lot. It was fun. So that's counting coup. It's nice when they get shit right.
Yeah. So in this situation, instead of whacking a
Babe, just yawn and then.
don't call me babe.
Sorry, this is how you can tell I've seen no one but Maddie. I called my mom babe the other day.
Oh my god. No, except in this situation, instead of whacking someone with a stick, you're stealing a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, you steal a whole person.
Yeah.
Except, probably not seen as a whole person.
Not a whole person, a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a person, it's just a woman.
It's just a lady.
Yeah, but so since Yar was the chief of security, she was the riskiest to capture and therefore earned him the most honor. And also, discussing Yar as an object to be stolen for valor. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Like,
very fucked up.
Like, he would not have chosen the security officer to capture if the security officer were not a woman, I'm sure.
Yeah, if it was Worf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the script would, the script would be totally different if Yar, as a security chief officer, were not female. But yeah, the statement stands. You just wouldn't write this way if it were a guy in this position. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, so Lutian finally calls in. Troy suggests to Picard that he asked for Yar back and say please. And Lutian invites him over. Also, in the middle of the call when Troy calls for a huddle, they're just leaving Lutian hanging, on mute. How is that diplomatic? And they do that all the time in Star Trek, and every time I'm just like, why is this going over normally? This feels really weird.
Please hold. We value your call. Picard and Troy, they go down to Luton's center place, which is his weird palace. And he goes in with Hagon and his first one, Yarina.
Mm-hmm.
Luton offers Picard any courtesy he desires. So Picard is like, let me fucking see Yar.
Yeah.
Yar is brought out and she's like, yeah, I'm kind of okay. This is kind of I'm getting big vibes of this is really your fault, asshole, from her. But
really,
yeah, I don't know. But there's all of this wouldn't have fucking happened if Picard hadn't just been yeah, go hang out with them, Yar.
Yeah, I don't know. Or if he were to be oh, it's Starfleet policy for at least 2 officers to accompany any guests aboard our vessels at any given time. You could cover for that. Because I'm sure that they trust Yar to take care of herself, but they don't fucking know these aliens.
Yeah.
It seems irresponsible to be yeah, you seem really fixated on my one officer, but yeah, for sure, just totes go hang out with just them unsupervised.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
It's a conversation that acknowledges the cultural mismatch of awkwardness of the situation.
Yeah, oh, this is awkward. This was weird. We have different understandings of the situation, and yeah, sorry about that, bro.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
And Luton is like, I will return you Yar at the supper this evening. You have to fucking wait though, Picard. Please, bro, I swear, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, this is a banquet in your honor, to pressure him into going along with it.
Picard spends this entire episode getting cucked by Luton.
Which I think is kind of the stereotype that they're leaning into.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's obfuscating. He's oh, this is all above board, and that I promise this is how we do things, and we're gonna play nice. I promise. But
yeah. Then at the banquet, Picard makes a speech where he compliments Luton on a super honorable honor. And he asks for Yar back. And Luton is basically fuck you, get owned, loser.
Yeah.
I'm keeping Yar as my first one.
Mm-hmm.
And Picard is like, what the fuck? And Yarina, his wife, his first one, is like, what the fuck? She challenges Yar to a death battle. What I find interesting about this is the names are Tasha Yar and Yarina. Yarina.
They really did not try.
No, this is a very low effort episode.
Yeah. Yeah. They really fucking called this one in.
Yeah. Fucking phone in.
Yeah. Or is that the phrase they phoned it in?
Calling it the same thing.
Okay. I don't know. I know that I don't know shit.
Who cares? So she's like, bitch, fight me to the death.
Yeah, she's like, I have the right to challenge this other woman to a fight, which is apparently in their Bill of Rights. Like, interesting that
They should put that in
is-
our Bill of Rights.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Slapboxing my wife's new husband. They should bring back dueling. I should be able to roll up on someone like Alexander Hamilton did.
I think they do that. We live in Milwaukee.
No, I'm talking like 10 paces.
Okay, like the structured, like honorable veneer.
We fire smoothbore pistols, and we wear like 18th century overcoats.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sweating in wool the whole time.
High boots.
Yeah, dude. I want a pair of high boots anyways. It'd be fucking sick. Yeah. And Luton is basically like, because Picard is like, yo, fuck that. You're not going to I'm not giving you the opportunity to kill my officer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, another like, ooh, Yar is an object to be, she's a ball to be passed around between these two men, Picard and Luton.
Yeah.
And Luton is basically like, fuck you. Because earlier he was like, you have to respect my customs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're not respecting my customs. They fight to the death, or you get no treaty and no vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just throws a fit. Also, the first one having the right to challenge a usurper is like, on the one hand, like it's an interesting mechanism of power that is held by the women in this society.
Yeah.
But it also really has the vibes of the wife blaming the other woman for the affair, rather than being like, my husband should just have
not
talked
be
to
a
me
bitch, yeah.
about whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
It's big blame other woman vibes.
Yeah. So you want to take it from here?
Sure. So they send up an update to Riker, who initiates a sensor sweep of the compound, and he also receives a message from Starbase 14 that the plague is getting worse. There's a new variant.
The Ligma variant.
Yeah. Picard and Troy go to visit Yar in like this room that Yar has been given, and Troy tricks, quote, Yar into admitting that she finds Luton attractive because apparently that's relevant. First off, like, is this?
I mean, okay,
tricking?
he's hot, but he kidnapped you.
Yeah.
She's such a shitty counselor. She's so bad at her fucking job.
Yeah, it's like, why is this relevant to the situation? Whether or not Yar is attracted to him, she's still a professional and operating as a professional.
Yeah,
it
she
does
never
not
once
matter.
has she acted on the idea like, yeah, I want to fuck Luton. Like,
Yeah. And also, like, them writing Yar as being like, yeah, I liked it. Like, because I think she kind of said, like, oh, I kind of liked his, like, kind of basic male figure-ness. It's very, your abuser is not your abuser if you, like, have ever had any positive feeling towards them, which is just not true.
not true, as well as the like idea of like, oh, this base male figure, which we are going to find in this, again, noble savage trait.
Yeah.
Fucking disgusting. Very racist.
Also, Picard says to her, we're all being manipulated, myself most of all. And I get that he's trying to tell Yar, like, don't feel dumb, I got duped too. But it's really coming off as, like...
Feel bad for me, woman who got
Yeah,
kidnapped.
you think you've had it bad. This is a wound to my ego and the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
Also, do you think Roddenberry is writing himself in a bit? Like, he would love for two women to fight over him like this, I think.
Maybe? I think this is just like the foxy boxing fantasy. You know what I mean?
Foxy boxing?
It's where two hot chicks box.
Is that a phrase?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You learn something new every day.
I think so. I don't know, maybe I invented that. Cat fight. You ever heard of that?
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that idea where it's like, ooh, girls fighting.
Yeah. They probably also thought that
There's like mud wrestling.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. I'll bet that the showrunners were like, ooh, we're doing something kind of like on the edge for having two women battle each other. But the context in which they're doing that sucks.
Fucking misogynist and racist.
Yeah. Oh my god. I feel like we could just do a supercut of us being like,
This is racist.
This is racist. This is gross. This sucks. And it's like probably 15% of all the audio of this episode.
True.
But so Yara is confident that she can win. And for some reason, Troy agrees with her that the odds are in her favor based on like no background knowledge. She's like, yeah, I believe in you. Why?
Yeah.
And then Picard goes over to Lieutenant to have like a locker room chat with him. Like he leans into like the grossness. And on the one hand, like I can appreciate that Picard is playing a diplomatic role, even if he doesn't like it or he doesn't agree with this.
Right.
But just within the context of such a gross episode, it just sucks.
Yeah.
It just feels like Picard being a gross white man.
It sucks also because like later on in the show, this feels very contrary to like the same guy who's like refuses to say there's 5 lights or whatever.
Yeah, it also feels contrary to the way that he acted in Farpoint, where he's like, yeah, put us on trial. We're super moral now. Like,
yeah. No, yeah. Like essentially this idea that like he's going to throw away that like highfalutin moral idea for like, I don't know, some political points.
Yeah. I mean, like, on the one hand, you could argue that, like, this flexibility and thinking on your feet makes for a good captain. Yeah.
It's also being unprincipled. You know?
I don't know. Like, he's kind of just going along with it.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Maddie brought us coffee. We're keeping this in the fucking episode.
Thank you, Maddie.
Everyone say thank you, Maddie. You're the fucking greatest human I've ever met.
What you up to, babe?
Knock my mic.
Well, I opened on the popsicle, and they only came in these like fat tubes.
Oh, weird.
So I have to, like,
Oh my god. Oh,
yeah.
It's perfect, my dear.
It's perfect. You're a fucking saint.
Angel.
Love you too. Bye.
Love you. Bye. All right. Let's see. Where were we? Yeah. So anyway, Picard goes to have a chat with Lieutenant, where he finds out that Lieutenant needs Urina's wealth in order to stay in power, and so that's why he's doing this in the first place. In the event of her death, he inherits all of it. So,
and he wants Urina to die, right?
well, he's in a win-win situation. Urina dies, he gets her wealth, and he gets Yar. If Yar dies, then he keeps his wife. His wife has more prestige now, and he has more prestige because he kidnaps this powerful officer from a powerful entity. But even so, like, his wife was like strong enough to kill her. So like either way, he comes out better on the other side.
I mean, maybe by his calculation, but there's
yeah,
a huge downside there, which is you kill the Starfleet officer, which means that you are not going to cooperate. The Starfleet is not going to talk to you for as long as you're alive.
They don't typically like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Lieutenant slips up and like lets out this evil laugh TM.
He goes,
it's this very like to make sure that we understand as an audience that he is conniving, because I really wasn't sure.
No, yeah,
until this point.
I couldn't tell by him kidnapping someone.
Yeah. Yeah, so Picard plays along and says that he'll order Yar to fight in the toast, which, like, convenient that Yar is already, like, insisted on fighting.
Yeah.
So also, in this conversation between Lieutenant and Picard, they keep referring to Yarina as Lieutenant's wife, like his wife.
Yeah.
And it's like, use her fucking name.
In the writer's room, until, like, the last draft of the script, they were like, oh shit, we never gave her a name.
Oh my god, what if that's what actually happens?
I can fucking feel it in my bones, dude.
Also, I just have a lot of thoughts about this conversation.
Yeah.
Picard in this conversation talks about evolving out of like pompous patriarchy, like this idea of evolving being a noble, progressive process that adheres to an ultimate scientific truth. But evolution is just throwing spaghetti at the wall and like seeing what sticks at that moment. It is not linear. And also, like, I don't know that you can count societal norms like this as evolution.
Now, you've opened up a can of worms. I'm going to talk about Hegel.
Okay, who is Hegel?
Hegel was a 18th century, maybe 19th century philosopher who came up with the concept of dialectics, which was his way of thinking about how, basically how the interplay of human ideas worked. Right. So he comes up with the dialectic. It's like really fucking hard to explain. But essentially the idea is that like you have two opposing ideas, and then through a process called sublation, one consumes the other one, and sort of a new thing is weirdly born out of it, but it's just a combination of the two things. There's one thing subsuming another thing. It's really hard to describe.
Is it kind of like the quilting together of ideas almost makes a new thing?
Almost. There's a level of like dominance that is
Yeah.
implied there. Like the best example I can give is how wellness, like mindfulness,
Yeah.
and like that like self-help thing. Those ideas and that style of like meditation is the result of sublation of Buddhism by American capitalism, right? Capitalist ideology interacts with Buddhism.
Mhm.
It takes the parts that it wants and it leaves the parts that it doesn't. And as such, sort of the work of dialectics is done, right?
So it's almost like say one idea is like flour or a mixture of some kind, and another idea is like a sieve, and you sieve the one idea through the other, and what comes out the other end is sublation.
Sublation is the process of it happening.
Okay.
And the thing that comes out the other side is a new idea.
I'm learning. I feel like this is like my own personal crash course, like YouTube channel.
I'm sure I'm getting some of this wrong because I understand Hegel through Marx and Zizek because I do not have the patience to read Phenomenology of Spirit. But one of the guys I just mentioned, Slavoj Žižek, he talks about the liberal co-option of dialectics, the interaction of the concept of dialectics dialectically with liberalism. I know, right?
My brain is like boiling.
Basically, the ideas of Hegel being run through the pan screen, the colander of liberalism as it exists, right? Because there's Marxist dialectics, materialist dialectics, which sort of dictate like dialectics come about through material conditions. And Marx has a predeterminist conception of dialectics, which is that communism is inevitable because of the contradictions within capitalism will inevitably result in socialism, and the contradictions in socialism will inevitably result in capitalism.
So is dialectics basically a school of thought?
It's a process of thinking.
Okay.
It's a process, and then people put that process onto other ideas, right? And the problem is that Hegel himself was never like, I'm going to predict the future. I'm just going to say dialectics will lead us to an ideal society because contradictions will continually sort themselves out. And as time has gone on, yeah, that's a point that Zizek makes, I think, where the idea is like Zizek is like he was talking about liberal conception of dialectics where he's like, things will always get better progressively. It's the thing that like you see like liberal politicians talk about is like, we are always on the march of history towards this eternal destiny of the good thing.
But is it the arc of history bends towards justice?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It
Is that Martin Luther King?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But it
That feels like
absolutely
something.
does not.
No, it does not. I mean, like, a lot of people try very hard for that to happen, but that is not what happens a lot of the time.
If the material
Most of the time.
conditions are not in place, it can go back real hard.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those processes where it's really hard to get to a certain spot and it's really easy to go backwards.
I mean, I think the best example, this is the example that every fucking alien talks about. Marx does it too. The French Revolution, right? You start out liberté, égalité, fraternité, right? All of these things. And then suddenly Robespierre is dead. The Directory's in charge. Suddenly Directory's dead. Napoleon's in charge. Suddenly Napoleon's dead. And the Bourbon dynasty is back.
It devolved.
Dialectics go neither way. They just, it's just the way that things interact with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so Picard in this scene is talking about like, oh, he's presenting the liberal conception of dialectics.
Okay. Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily happen. And this is, again, this whole podcast is me talking about how like, oh, this is ideology of the show. This is white liberal propaganda, basically.
Yeah.
This is the epitome of that. This idea that this backward society, like the Ligons, or whatever the fuck I call them, Ligonians, right?
The legumes,
right? They are going to one day evolve to be just like the Federation. And the Federation just so happen they will evolve to be the perfect society because their contradictions will sort out. And the Federation just so happens to be the pinnacle of liberal ideology.
Yeah, it's like they think that the, quote, evolution of a society, the predestined destination of the evolution is to something that looks like the Federation, which is just not true.
Well, it's very like Sid Meier's Civilization. You ever play those games?
Like Civ? Is that what you're referring
Civ,
to?
yeah.
Okay. I know of them.
So the idea that there's like, oh, there's a government tree and there's a technology tree, and every civilization ends up going down the exact same path, when historically that is not how that fucking works. We have like 6 whole dark ages to prove otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you want to look at how civilizations fall apart, or the grand arc of, some kind of
human
progress.
history.
Yeah, like there's a certain like template for it, but like it's a very vague template.
Well, we progress in technology, but like I would argue that there's a certain amount of ideology that has not changed since like fucking Aristotle wrote it, right?
Well, also technology is super definitely not a linear forward progress.
No, it's
We
weird.
forgot how to make concrete at the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That shit was lost for way longer than it should have.
There's shit in that we would like never recover from the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Alexandria.
Yeah.
No, it's not. There's no such thing as like this linear progress of history. It's this constant subsuming of ideas by other ideas. But there is a lot to stick on in this conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of those things that's very like, here it is, the core of this show. This idea that like, it's okay that these guys are chauvinist assholes because they do it the right way, which is the pinnacle of like liberalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get back to the recap?
Yeah, sorry. I had to go on a quick Hegel.
I liked that.
Tangent.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I think that like the way that you explained things, it's not that I don't understand and I'm not familiar with those concepts, but I couldn't explain it in that way. And I enjoy that.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Do you want to take this?
Sure. So back on the Enterprise,
Sorry.
Data and LaForge, they're having a fun little scene. And LaForge is shaving with a straight razor.
Yeah.
Well, and having a conversation.
Why?
Maybe, okay, he had an existential crisis the last episode. Maybe he's just like, I'm just gonna put myself in precarious situations, and if I die, I die.
Is a straight razor really like? Are they still using straight razors in this century?
There's always gonna be some fucking dweeb that's like, oh, it gets a closer shave. You could like literally, I'm pretty sure they have like laser removal fucking things that you could do. Like if you wanted to shave that much, you could like phaser that shit off your face.
Yeah. I mean, we have the technology now. It's just onerous, but yeah, it exists. Yeah.
Okay. Data's testing out his Type 5 on Geordi. It's not landing. And apparently he's attempted 662 jokes, but he hasn't been able to understand humor at all yet. Needs to do some Norm Macdonald like bits. I think he'd be really good at the deadpan.
Oh yeah. This scene is the only good part of this episode. It's very cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's always one scene that's like, oh, this is a cute interaction between these characters.
Mm-hmm. Also, the joke is premised on a mispronunciation, like a slip of the tongue. And then when he's done telling the joke, like in his next line or so, he does the same slip of the tongue.
Yeah.
But not within the joke. And LaForge laughs at that. He's like, see, that's funny. And Data's like, but I didn't mean to. And he was like, but that's why it's funny. Which yeah, agree. But also like, does Data have slips of the tongue?
I mean, okay. Hypothetically, because Data's brain is so advanced, right? I mean, it's the closest replication of a human brain anyone has ever gotten, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetically, it could have similar fuck-ups.
Yeah, I mean, like, our fucking laptop fucks up.
Yeah.
We're currently using Logic because we tried to use Audacity, and Audacity was just like...
being a bitch.
How about fuck you?
Yeah. So, it's feasible.
Yeah.
You know, not like something as ridiculous as, like, I don't know, him, like, fucking or something like that. Why would they ever put that in an episode?
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought that was, like, an interestingly human moment, in a moment where he's trying to reach for a human experience and can't touch it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, the idea that I don't really remember that much about how they handle like him learning to be a human. I remember certain things, but like I think it would be interesting, the idea of like maybe developing like, oh, maybe Data has to learn that you can't learn to be human. It's something that happens to you. Yeah,
I mean, like throughout the show, a lot of screen time is dedicated to him trying to become human, and a lot of people like helping him as much as they can, but then ultimately telling him, you just do this. Like this is just something that you innately develop. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't think this is gonna work. Yeah,
well, and like I feel like Data learns through like these like human connections, which the point isn't like being able to tell a joke. The point is like, if you're making the connection of like, oh yeah, I'm hanging out with my friend Geordi LaForge, he's a human at that point. Like,
yeah. That's I really enjoy Data's arc, but I would also find it very interesting if they spent less time on Data trying to become human and more time on Data, like, just trying to figure out who he is.
Outside of the concept of being a human.
It's almost like masking does not develop the personality.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Damn. This is a really deep analysis.
For, I don't know, some listeners who don't know a lot about being on the spectrum, but like when you're on the spectrum, most therapies encourage you to mask, to like integrate into society and get along and be a, quote, successful human being. But like, you know, for actual real mental health of someone on the spectrum, you just gotta be you.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, we see explicitly what Data actually does like.
Mm-hmm.
He likes his cat Spot. He likes his buddy Geordi. He likes painting, right?
And he likes his daughter Lal.
Yeah.
That, oh my God, that he has
a fundamental human experience.
Yeah, but not in a way that he's trying to force it through a human lens.
No,
like,
he's experiencing it as himself.
Yeah.
Which is the most hypothetically human thing he could do.
Yeah. Oh my God, that episode. I've watched that episode probably 8 times by now.
It's a good episode.
I cry every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, his daughter is adorable.
Yes.
She's a real cutie. I love her. Anyway.
We can't keep thinking about better episodes.
Fuck, we gotta get out of season 1.
We are doing tangents to avoid examining the real plot of this.
Really procrastinating talking about this shitty fucking episode.
Yep. So they're ordered down on the surface. They go and they meet Picard. They examine the weapons for the blood sport that they're going to be engaging in. Everything proves to be exceedingly pointy and covered in super poison.
Yeah. Yeah.
That fucks.
I was like, when
Warhammer character design question mark.
When they were going over like all the different weapons, I was just like, fucking of course it's covered in poison.
Yeah.
But yeah. So back on the ship, they're preparing to be able to beam Yar out if things get ugly. It's kind of a difficult project. They haven't figured it out yet. Back down on the planet, Urena comes to meet Yar at Yar's request.
They have the same fucking name.
Yeah. Yar tries to talk her out of going through with the fight, but Urena is determined to fight for Lutan. She's convinced Yar actually wants to steal her man.
Very stupid plot point.
It's those same tropes that we were just talking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
Also, Urena being offended that Yar isn't into Lutan. It's the old trope of a man can do no wrong and it comes down to the fault of the other woman. It's really gross.
It is really gross. This episode fucking sucks, man.
Also, this is not exactly like a cheating situation, but I've been in a serious relationship where my partner has cheated.
Yeah.
And like,
is it cheating if you kidnap someone else?
That's emotionally cheating. I mean, I don't know if you've been cheated on in a serious relationship.
I've never been in a serious relationship. What do I look like? Some kind of fucking dweeb?
It's a serious mindfuck, dude.
Yeah, and there's a huge blow to like your trust in people.
Yeah, and like especially if you try to stay in the relationship, you basically have to pick either accepting that your partner is an asshole or just letting your stress and anxiety about the situation lie in like, okay, this other person that they cheated with, they're the problem.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, because I chose to stay with my partner, and that face really explains how it went.
That's really tough, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know, when I'm watching media like this, where someone's cheating, or like something like this is happening, where there's like some bashing of heads between like, you know, the person that's in the relationship and like the quote other woman. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm always just like, bah, rah. like it scratches nails on chalkboard in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a really great sound.
Ryan's love corner advice: if your partner cheats on you, leave.
Yeah, you know what? That's also M's advice.
Yeah.
Don't stick around.
You guys should email us your relationship problems and we'll answer them.
Oh, what if we had a Counselor Troy advice corner? That would actually be.
Where we give the worst possible advice. Dear, what is it? Dear Abby or whatever. The columns that people used to write in and be like,
yeah.
Except it's Dear Opera House.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah, listeners, if you have a socially difficult but funny story that you want, quote, advice on that may or may not be good, write us in and maybe we'll make this a bit.
segment. Yeah.
Cool. Glad we figured that out.
Yeah. Data and LaForge, what happens next? They do their nerd report on a weapon, and they say they're light and durable for women to use.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen like a woman power lifter?
Yeah.
Kick my ass.
Oh yeah.
I don't get it. I don't fucking get it.
It's it's
guns are the same weight no matter who uses them.
You know why this alien culture really has some potential to get to where the humans currently are?
Because they have products for women.
They also have branded product for women TM.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Anyway.
Well, because we are the cradle of everything that is horrible. It's us in Britain.
We're the cradle of the worst of capitalism.
Yes. So Hagon arrives to tell them the weapon of choice will be a glove covered in poisonous spines.
Yeah. This looks like a prop from SpongeBob.
It does?
It's just nails and a baseball bat, except it's like on your hand.
This looks like the worst weapon to pick in Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like a shitty video game weapon.
Yeah, Star Wars reference. You know how only Jedi can use lightsabers because they like have the Force, and like that's the only way that they don't like cut off their own limbs.
I don't think you have to be a Jedi to use lightsaber. Finn does it in Episode 7.
And
oh yeah, because it was in the old lore. It was in like the extended universe, I think.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I've definitely had conversations with nerds who are like, you have to have the Force to not fuck your own shit up with a lightsaber. And they were like really mad that non-Force people were using lightsabers and not accidentally killing themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, how do you think Yar's level of midichlorians are?
Anyone's got midichlorians in Star Trek, it's fucking Cisco. He's literally space Jesus.
That's true. You know, I also think that Dax just over her lifetimes has like she has to have
because midichlorians are in your blood, right? So does the Dax symbiote give you extra blood?
I feel like you know how like lead accrues in your teeth over time. What if midichlorians like
accrue in your blood?
Accrue in like the fatty deposits of like the
Dax symbiote?
The symbiont, yeah, and it's like going from host to host, just collects more and more over time.
Yeah. Also, I feel like any given captain has the Force, right? Because they just kind of bullshit their way back into like doing anything.
Yeah. The Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah, well, like that, and just like having the Force gives you plot armor in Star Wars. Apparently,
yeah.
Fucking Luke Skywalker flies an X-wing for the first time, and he blows up a planet-sized system, and nobody questions it. Like, fuck it. Yeah, Urena is practicing in the arena, and it looks really fucking stupid.
Yeah, like they kind of like see her like through the hallway at a distance. Star Trek loves making a flat playing field into an unnecessarily faceted shape. Like think of 3D chess.
Yeah. No, I also don't get the point of 3D chess because like so recently I was going to talk about this on our what's on the holodeck for this, but recently I've been learning chess, and what I realize is that like what you learn is that like the way that you actually win chess is most of the time by having really good pattern recognition and like being able to understand from your past experience, being able to like call on like, oh, this is what is a good move in this situation based on like what I've studied and all of that kind of stuff. And like, there's a lot of tactical thinking that goes into it, but a lot of the time it's like, oh, I recognize the structure of pawns in this specific space and the king is in this place or something like that. So I can do these moves or whatever the fuck. Like, I don't get why 3D chess exists because like that just needlessly complicates it. Also, can like the chess pieces move from space to space?
3D chess, like the fan base has spent a lot of time trying to figure out how the fuck it works, and like I think the consensus is that it's just bullshit.
Yeah, there's a game called 4D chess with time travel on Steam.
What the fuck is that?
4D chess with time travel.
Okay, I under the 4D piece is self-explanatory. what is the time travel
You
aspect?
get certain aspects where you can go back a certain amount of moves and change the move. And
What?
it starts a different game that you have to play.
Oh, does it like open up a like multiverse situation that you have to like simultaneously play out, and
From
like the more
what-
often you do that, the more games you have to juggle?
From what I understand, yes.
What? I was totally joking. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm not even mad. That's
fucking
funny.
rocks, yeah.
Oh my god.
Um,
Oh my god. Oh, I want to play that, and I'm gonna fail so miserably.
I
But-
would be so bad at it.
But I am leaning more into the idea that I don't have to be good at my hobbies, and that's why they're hobbies, and that's why the quality of this podcast is currently questionable.
We're not doing too bad.
We're not the worst.
Yeah. No, and like for me with learning chess recently, it's like, yeah, I'm a beginner. I'm not going to be good at this. Like,
Yeah.
guitar has spoiled me because I played it for a really long time, and then I'm like, well, I should be good at my hobbies, and then I was like, no, wait, that's not how this works.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as an artist, my hobby is also art,
Yeah,
and it's
you're good at that.
yeah, it's especially hard to pick apart. Like, it's not that I should be doing this. I want to be doing this. Also, it's okay if I don't because it's a hobby and it's not work.
You have no obligation to it.
Yeah, you know, gig culture and shit has ruined everything. Anyway,
Capitalism sucks. This just in.
hot take.
Yeah. Act 5, baby, rolling into the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Picard, Troy, and LaForge. So they go to like the fighting arena with like the Cubert squares. Which, by the way, like that is the dumbest possible way to frame a fight. Like you could have one person like on higher ground. You could have it like there's an arena with like different levels that you can go on, but like having it like every square foot, no combat style would work.
It's like part of the strategy is to not roll your ankle.
Yeah.
Also, some of these poles are electrified,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother like.
It's like if in
What
the
the fuck?
WWE cage match, they were also like, yeah, and also there is no level playing
Yeah,
field.
and this takes place on a jungle gym.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they're playing Smash Bros.
There's a moment where Yar is on the ground, and I think it might just be bad choreography, but it's really unclear as to whether she intentionally gets on the ground or falls on the ground.
Yeah. She's also wearing a Karate Kid headband for this sequence.
This
Sucks.
is about 20% of work away from being a good scene. Like, the weapon is stupid, make the weapon different. The poles are jiggling around, make the poles solid. Like, if you can get those things to happen, this could like maybe be a fun fight to watch, but it just looks so fucking stupid.
Yeah, it looks fucking dumb, and like the context it exists in is really fucking stupid. But also, like the entire time, you're like, "There's no way Yara's gonna die."
Yeah, of course not.
She's a fucking main cast character. Granted, I'm proven wrong later, but
Yeah. Also, Lutan is watching this fight. Like, the way that he's watching it has the energy of a dude at a bar watching two girls kiss.
yeah, it's like, oh, hot.
Yeah. It's like, all of this is for me, which technically here is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fucking beating the shit out of each other.
Yarina's Glavin hits a pole.
Yeah, and it flies off and hits a spectator.
This spectator does this whole like slow look down at his blood and is shocked and then promptly keels over. Like,
Because that's how poison works.
this little sequence is so fucking campy, but honestly, this is the kind of camp that I enjoy about Star Trek, like particularly Next Generation.
Yeah.
Like, this is fun campy.
This reminds me a little bit of like the Gorn fight.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fight is halted until Urina gets her Glavin back, and they do the whole like Matrix frozen in position thing.
Yeah.
Um,
The kids on fucking freeze tag. Eventually, Yar kills Urina.
mhm.
And then she fucking promptly jumps onto her, and they get beamed up to the Enterprise together.
Mhm.
And Beverly immediately starts fixing her shit.
Mhm.
Lutan is pissed about this, but Picard is like, yeah, she died. You got the conclusion you wanted.
Hey, bud, remember, you won. Yeah, it's fine, right? It's fine.
Yeah. And Hagon reminds him that he's now inherited Urina's wealth and land.
Mhm.
Lutan is satisfied, and he's like, come get the vaccine, homeboy.
Mhm.
Picard immediately afterwards, there's a whole X number of away team members plus one beam up, and Luton goes, and then they go on the observation lounge where fucking Urena is alive. It's explained that since she technically died, their marriage is like null, but she gets to retain her wealth. And then she's like, I actually want to fuck your homeboy instead, Luton. And she takes Hagon as her first one. And she's like, Luton, you're my second one now. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. The line that Luton has when she's like, yeah, I'm alive and my shit's still mine, but I'm done with you. He's like, but this is witchcraft, Urena, to discard a mate in this manner. And she cuts in and she's like, it's less painful than the one you selected for me. Great line. Good for her. Again, fuck this episode, but like
Queen.
one of the kernels of
Good
well
shit.
done shit in this episode.
Yeah.
Yar, I think it's like after Urena chooses Hagon as her new first, but before she's like, hey, Luton, you want these leftovers? Like before that.
You want sloppy seconds, dude?
Yar is all like, oh, so sad. What a waste. And like at first I was like, oh, she's mocking him. Good. She's like, she finally is like over her crush of him.
Yeah.
But then like her follow-up like line in like face acting tells us that no, she's like actually disappointed that he's damaged goods. I'm like, how are you still into him? Like he's very attractive, but he just tried to fuck over his first one so bad. It's like, again,
He tried to kidnap you and use you to kill his wife.
Speaking from experience, some dating advice: if the person that you're interested in has cheated before,
They're going to cheat on you.
yeah, they're going to cheat again. If this alien that you like has plotted to kill his wife before,
He might plot to kill you.
Yeah.
That's why you get a prenup.
Oh, I'm in like such a falsetto with my like hoarse voice. I feel like I'm getting amped and then I'm just going like, I'm going up here to talk because I'm amped.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they go back and they're like, Wesley, thank you for watching the fucking bridge. And he's like, oh, gee willikers. No problem, Captain Picard.
Yeah, that is the vibe. Picard's like, we'll see that you get another chance to do this. And Wesley is so hyped.
He goes, yippee!
Yeah.
Like fucking Anakin in The Phantom Menace.
Kicks his heels.
Yeah.
Do they not have like another ensign to man the station? There are 1,000 people on board.
There's at least one.
You know, here's a
fucking Ensign Barclay.
yeah, Barkley would be better
than Wesley. Yeah, because he's not a literal child.
Yeah, but I was thinking about this polyamory aspect of like the ends to this story.
Yeah.
And, you know, we know that Gene Roddenberry was like probably some form of polyamorist.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, you could guess at that. And like, I'm wondering when he's working in this episode, if he's like writing in his like morality.
Dream.
I mean, like, not that I think that Gene Roddenberry thinks that it's a great idea to plot to kill your wife and inherit all her shit, but like, you know,
you should only do that to your husband. Ladies, take note.
Like presenting another form of relationship because it's one that he believes in.
Maybe I think that like it's polyamory in this episode is shown as a shame. It's like quite literally like get cucked, nerd. Like
yeah, and there's like a very strict hierarchy of like the amount of honor accorded to like if you're the first or the second or whatever,
which is also not how polyamory works.
Yeah, if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Also, here's an interesting thought. Well, I think it's interesting. Lutan obviously has a first, second, third, whatever.
Yeah.
So then
what happens to his second?
Well, also, he can have first, second, thirds, whatever. Can she also have first, second, thirds, like within this power dynamic within this culture? Like,
I think so, yeah.
That sounds so fucking complicated. I mean, like, I guess that's like what
just
actual polyamory is.
Just do free love. Just do what hippies did. Just boink each other in the mud. Like,
use protection, get tested.
Yeah.
Be responsible and communicate.
Pick one that you like a lot. Pick a couple that you like a lot, but just like fuck everyone.
Yeah, but should we do next episode synopsis guesses?
Yeah, what's the name of the episode?
The Last Outpost.
Oh, I remember the one that I put in my notes for this.
Okay.
The Enterprise comes across a 21st century man who's been frozen in ice, and he's distraught at the fact that he no longer has Twitter, and they have to console him and get him off of his his addiction to posting. They have to tell him that he can't go on the HoloNet and yell about Star Wars anymore.
You really deconstructed that title.
It comes from the heart. It comes from a personal place.
Yeah, I can see where that would come from, you and your experiences. Okay, so I think the last outpost is Outpost, the natural food store, vanquished its big daddy competitor Whole Foods. And they once expanded their stores to other planets throughout the Federation, but over the decades suffered the blockbuster effect with the rise of the replicator.
So now it's the last outpost.
Yeah. Troy was always a big fan and wants to visit the last location before it closes down. She has a punch card for super dark chocolate that she wants to redeem. This is like the last blockbuster in Alaska.
Oh, no, that's in Oregon.
Is it Oregon?
Yeah, and
Oh,
I'm going to make the pilgrimage there.
Oh, I thought that was Alaska.
I feel like Alaska would be like the smart place for that to be.
Well, because it's so hard to get good reception or internet out there.
Yeah. I wonder if Redbox is popular out there. If you're Alaskan
Probably.
and you're listening to this, DM us.
Yeah. What's on your holodeck?
I'm learning chess. Right now I'm reading a book called How to Beat Your Dad at Chess.
I can't believe you're reading a book about chess.
I want to do like the traditional, like, I want to like try to get good at it, right?
I admire you as a nerd so much.
You know what? I've accepted it at this point. Okay, because I lost my virginity when I was a freshman in college, right? And before that, I was very much like, I have to tone down the nerd shit so that way I can get some pussy, right? Now that I'm like, I get laid more than ever, right? Which is not that much, but whatever. But like, I'm on a Star Trek podcast right now, dude. I love Warhammer 40K and Magic the Gathering. Like, I'm just full into it. I think the problem with being a huge fucking dweeb is when you make it your personality.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm a nerd. That's when I get to swirly you, right?
Yeah.
Even though I am also a huge fucking nerd, right?
Yeah, it's when you learn the Klingon language, but don't dissect like the concept of personal honor over social need at all.
Well, but it's when you're going on the internet and being like, why don't any of the fucking Marvel movies have Oscars yet, right? And pretending like you're still the fucking underdog for being a nerd, right? You know, it's like the like being in Mensa kind of nerd.
What's Mensa?
They're this group of dicks who like are like, you can only get into Mensa if you have a really high IQ. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're smart. Having a high IQ means nothing.
No, it does not.
But they all think that they're really smart, and so they're all like, oh, only high IQ individuals can get in here. Ooh, none of us played football in high school. Ooh, right? It's that kind of person. And that's when I get to fucking swirl you. But if you're just a guy who like likes chess, you want to play Magic the Gathering, you're not a misogynist, come hang out.
Yeah.
Right?
Word. Yeah, like lean into you and love the stuff you love, and the people that you probably actually will want to hang out with will be like, oh, that person's kind of chill. I should hang out with them. And then maybe you fuck each other.
Yeah. There's one thing that we can learn from our tangent on Data Today, right? You can't experience the world through a lens that someone else presents to you. You can only experience human experiences as you. I'm only me, right, when I'm doing what I want, right? And that's why I'm fucking reading How to Beat Your Dad at Chess. I'm doing there's like really good like website for like puzzles and stuff like that for chess, where it's like chess, I'm forgetting what it's called. It's really good though. It might just be chess.com, but like it's like, oh, how do you get the mate here? How do you win material in this situation, right? Really cool. What about for you? What's on the holodeck for you?
So Maddie and I have started to watch Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, is that the gay pirate one?
Yes.
With Steve Bonnet and Blackbeard, right?
Yeah, and Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi, I fucking love him.
He knows how to deliver the goods, man.
I would cuddle him. His eyes are so twinkly. I want to play with his hair. And he's just so fucking funny.
He's a funny little New Zealand man.
Yeah.
I saw Jojo Rabbit was the first movie that ever made me like actually cry.
Really?
Yeah. because that whole movie is literally just about like, I think it's because it's so prescient for our time, but it's the idea of like a small child overcoming radicalization that he was not knowledgeable of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful for me. For this idea that like, yes, this child is overcoming this like indoctrination, and it's like this very big thing, and it's in this context of like the innocence of childhood and shit like that. That was the first movie I think I ever cried at.
I need to watch that one.
It's good.
But yeah, the costume design is really fun. Like all of the characters are really fun. There's never a moment where any character is on screen and I'm just like, oh, this fucking guy.
Fuck this guy.
Which is how I feel about most shows. In most shows, there's someone where I'm just like, oh my
Wesley
God.
Crusher.
But I'm
Neelix.
also I have such a love-hate relationship with Neelix. You know who really loved Neelix?
Who?
My ex.
That's the red flag.
It should have been.
Yeah.
Nothing but red flags. Yeah, but like I'm someone who like I have not watched so many shows that are like, you know, kind of the comedic canon of our generation.
Mhm.
Haven't watched It's Always Sunny, haven't watched Schitt's Creek, haven't watched just fucking so many things.
You have to fucking watch It's Always Sunny.
I know. Or Parks and Rec. I don't know, like so much, but like it's because sitcoms make me so anxious. Like
I get that.
like
I understand that because the highest ratchet version of that is Seinfeld and
Mhm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm,
mm-hmm.
which I both love, but I can only watch like 2 episodes of it because the whole thing is them building up super hard on making these really awkward situations, and then it all paying off in like a big gag at the end.
Yeah. It's like this metaphor is maybe a little embarrassing, but it's like edging.
It's like, yeah, no, it's like they're ratcheting it up constantly, and you're like, oh shit, right?
Yeah.
And like I can see how that can be like anxiety inducing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I really like Frasier. I really like Bob's Burgers. I like Tuca and Birdie. But, like, I can only handle, like, 2 episodes at a time before I'm like, okay, I gotta go watch Star Trek where I know exactly what's gonna happen.
Well, it's also like, with Star Trek, it's very much like, oh, there's this tension, but it's based around this idea of, like, oh, are they going to be competent Starfleet officers and not, like, are they going to navigate this social situation well?
Mm-hmm.
Because in our everyday lives, it just, like, reminds me, like, hey, you know how much you fuck up in your everyday life as like, you know, like a social context. Like every sitcom that I watch, like I can't watch How I Met Your Mother because watching Ted fucking talk to women,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, this is too real.
Yeah.
I can't talk to women. Like,
yeah, but so our flag means death is so I know Taika Waititi made What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. I'm not sure how involved he was in the show, but like
he appeared on it at least.
He does, yeah. But you know, like the style is very akin to What We Do in the Shadows, and like for
very
both,
much in the spirit.
Yeah, so for both of those shows, What We Do in the Shadows and Our Flag Means Death, also A+ titles. Like I feel like there's just some show titles where I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, like fucking Star Trek. No, yeah, like.
So Maddie is really excited to watch Our Flag Means Death, and I'm always just like, I really want to watch this, but I do not have the spoons to withstand situational comedy right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, Our Flag Means Death is not the most onerous sitcom ever, but like, it's still just like emotional work for me. So I'm working on watching that because I like it. It's just, you know, I gotta have some energy in the bank.
Yeah, I get that. Like I'm that way with shows that are like really intense otherwise. Like I can't watch that much Breaking Bad at a time because every episode is like, is Walter White gonna kill this guy or something? And like I recognize that it's a good show. It's just like I can't do that every day, you know?
Yeah. It's oh god, that's such an intense show.
And like the thing is, like, that's why I really like the movie format.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like Breaking Bad. I think it's a fucking great show. I like Better Call Saul too. It's a fucking great show. I like a lot of that stuff. But I like that kind of tension and stuff like that in like a movie format because it's like 2 hours and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I sit down and I watch like I don't know, The Godfather, something like that, where it's like very tense and very like pent up, and you can see people like working around each other and shit like that. And it's like, this is really fucking great. it's real like brain food, right? Then it's like, okay, 2 hours, it's over. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm making my way through this whole series and I'm going to be in that mindset of like, ooh, the tension of like, dealing drugs and killing people like
Yeah.
for a whole like 5 seasons or whatever.
Yeah. And then you watch
Then you watch Star Trek. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry. That was
No.
a fucking tangent.
I mean, it was a fun tangent.
Yeah.
It's that sign that goes above people's toilets. The time you enjoy wasting was not wasted. Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love. I am living, laughing, and loving. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, you fucking better be too. Smooches. We'll see y'all next time. This has been Klingon Opera House.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.